He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick done on third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He does a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that?
Kermit Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Kermit Whitfield to the 30, to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown up and down. Kermit Whitfield, a 100-yard touchdown.
Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the other.
It's caught. It's caught. It's caught. Touchdown FSU. Kelvin Benjamin.
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
This is the Garnet Old podcast with your hosts, Ryan Eastman and Vince Ciccarelli. Welcome to the Garnet Old podcast. I'm Ryan. That's Vince. Vince, we get to talk about a win.
We do. Garnet and Old, no inside info, no context, no problem. You found on all the major systems, right? Right, Ryan?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and hey, listen, any week that we get to come in here and talk about a Florida State win, and we'll get into a little bit here in a second, but I think a lot of unnecessary complaints from the fan base over the last week from that Georgia Tech win that I don't necessarily agree with, and I'd like to talk about that here in a second.
Yeah, there's definitely some people that are probably putting too much stock in some of the stuff that happened during the game and in a negative way. But yeah, we can definitely get into that. What was your final score, Ryan, for that game? Do you remember?
Yeah, I predicted 48-10. I mean, it was a pretty convincing win. I think the big thing that resonates with me is that 600 yards of offense. We blow them out. It would have been by even more, but they scored with garbage time with a bunch of backups in the last couple minutes of the game. Listen, we all saw the first quarter. Sure, it was sloppy, and I didn't like all the calls, but I think all the talk, about complaining about we could have blown them out by 50 points or 6 points. I'm just like, guys, we should all be in a happy place if we're complaining about a blowout win where we have 600 yards of offense.
For sure. And, we put in the graphic this week, the perfect time for the perfect game. And the game wasn't perfect, but the things that occurred in that game really made it the perfect game because it provides the coaching staff and the team, the requisite things to work on this week. Just imagine if they had just completely obliterated that team, which they almost did, but they, with no miscues and things like that. Maybe that results in them maybe not putting the same kind of effort that they normally would put in this week. But they had some things that went wrong. That first quarter was it was almost like tough to watch, because they're doing pretty much what they want to do, but again, they just can't get it over the finish line. And then there's some kind of miscue that, you just kind of, as a Florida State fan, just kind of like, man, really kind of roll your eyes. But after that though, it was pretty much a clinic, man.
Yeah. I mean, we have eyes too. I mean, we were there in the first quarter and rolled our eyes when, we go wildcat from the goal line and it, fumbles. And of course, when we fumble, they pick it up in motion, running full speed the other direction. It's not like a fumble where they fall on it and they take over on the one. That would be just too normal for a Florida State mistake. But I just said it in the game when we were watching it. We sat next to each other and I said at the time, it just feels like it's a weird game. It just felt weird at the beginning. Like it felt like the crowd wasn't that great until about halfway through the game. I thought the crowd actually filled out, but I mean the students didn't show up at the first quarter. It was quiet in the stadium. It just felt very odd. The whole first quarter felt out of sync. Unless you're the defense, I mean, barely gave up any yards in the first half of the game. I just think it's one of those things people keep expecting, like finally that, like you said, the perfect game. But what college football team outside of Georgia puts on a perfect game? I mean, all college football teams. I watch all the games and all the highlights, and there's tons of quality teams that have a terrible quarter and then pick it up and clean it up and end up blowing out the team. It's not uncommon, so I don't understand why the fandom at large expects anything different from us when I think we're maximizing right now the talent we have. We're not loaded with 5 stars. So for us to go out and blow out any ACC team, I'm actually pretty happy with.
Yeah, if you look at Georgia, with their game this past weekend, they're dominating them, but then they lulled. They had a lull during the game and allowed that team, which is not a great team, to get some momentum. I don't know what it is either, Ryan. And if you look, I think people have rose-colored glasses about the old days. Those teams weren't perfect either. Did they end up with perfect seasons? Maybe, yes. But man, there were some head
Look at
scratchers with those
2014.
teams too. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I agree with you on that. It's like, what do you? There's not perfection, and again, we talk about this almost every week. If you're gonna live in the social media world and you have any semblance of common sense, you're just gonna have to put on the thick skin and just keep your thumbs away from the phone because it sways from, but it really sways from both sides, right? It's like there's people that are like, this team doesn't do anything right. And then there's the other side, it's like this, it's not that this team can do nothing wrong, but it's almost like Pollyanna, like whatever they do is fine, right? Neither one of those things are true.
Right.
Neither one of those things are true. There are things to work on, absolutely. And I also agree with you that this coaching staff, they're not perfect either, but they're in a kind of a good rhythm of, maximizing what the roster that they have. And the roster that they have is flawed. So of course you're going to have some, that snap in the Wildcat. I'm okay with the Wildcat there. Absolutely. We're not a good, straight ahead run team in a normal run situation. Like we kind of have to be creative in those. But that's not really creative, man. That's a snap to a running back.
Well, Mike Norvell's been running the Wildcat since he got here multiple times every game.
So for people to say that he's trying to get cute, no, that's a numbers advantage. When you're taking the quarterback out of the mix there and you are going to run, the only thing that might have been better in that situation is running Jordan Travis, but they were not going to run him in that game. You know that for a fact. And that snap, Ryan, that snap was off. And there were many snaps. There were a handful of snaps that were very suspect in that game.
Yeah, it just, to me, it felt like the perfect storm. I think had the fumble just happened with 0 timeouts being taken, it's like, it would have been like, right. Oh, that sucks. But it was like Jordan's mad, and then Mike Norvell's mad, and we burned 2 timeouts, and then we fumbled. So I think it was those 3. But if you have anything to be mad about as a fan, I would be more frustrated coming off a bye week with timeouts being used than with the play itself.
Yeah, but I mean, they're down in the red zone. They struggle in the red zone, right? And, they don't want to, they're already struggling, so they don't want to make it worse for guys not knowing what the play is. So if they're going to use the timeouts, I get it. It's unfortunate that, well, I know. But you know what happened in that sequence of plays? Was it Micah Pittman? He scored, right? Wasn't that the play?
He did.
Was irate.
Why didn't they review it?
I don't know. Micah Pittman, I think, lost his cool in that moment. He just needed to go and play the next play. I think he was beside himself that they did not call that score. So I think that started that kind of combination of, guys just not being tuned into what they needed to do next.
But the good news is after that,
yeah,
it's the best statistical game Jordan Travis has had it as a Seminole. There were some passes that you and I couldn't believe that they looked incomplete just because of how far ahead of the receivers they were throwing, and it looked like they were going to be too far out, and it just happened and it dropped in their hands like a bucket,
Oh, it's
and he was
unbelievable.
dropping dimes.
That throw to Johnny Wilson, the one to a Philly on the wheel route. I mean, what is the defender going to do? It's
Yeah,
a perfect ball. And so, yeah, there was a couple overthrows earlier in the game where he kind of missed, but then he locked in, man. And that throw to Ja'Kai when he was on the run, rolling to his right, I mean, there aren't many quarterbacks that are going to put that ball where it needs to be. And Jordan has become a much better passer. Is he an elite passer? No. But the combination of what he's become as a passer and his feet makes him, a rock star in the college game.
and I think what's funny is a lot of casual fans may not realize this, but during the bye week and the 2 weeks that they had between games, they were practicing a lot of formations and offense that did not look anything like what we rolled out against Georgia Tech, and they might have been confused why that was. Well, I really believe that the staff thought we could beat Georgia Tech doing anything. Like we could just run every time if we wanted to and beat them. So I think a lot of the install in the bye week was more geared towards Miami, Syracuse, knowing that Georgia Tech was probably not equipped to compete with us. So there's plays that I've heard and seen on the boards that were run and done in practice that I think will really make a lot of people feel good. And
Yeah.
when they see it against Miami, hopefully, I mean, it bodes well going in for Miami because really we've had now 3 weeks that we've essentially been practicing for Miami. That tells you how much importance they're putting on that game.
I mean, but that's a balance because I think that last year the coaching staff looked ahead a little bit with the game and then it came back to bite them, right? But they took care of business in this game, even though the beginning of it was a little shaky. They they put that game away, and there was no way Georgia Tech was going to be able to come back in that game.
Yeah.
So, and they got a
Georgia
lot
Tech
of
didn't have
young
a
guys
chance.
in.
I mean, I think the moment the ball was snapped to the second we saw their offense, we said, "Oh, it's probably not going to be a good day for the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech." Because I mean, they couldn't do anything, and hands off to the defense. I don't want to get super deep because I want to get towards Miami, but I mean, I thought the starting defense when we had the starting guys on the field, they played well. I think they got a little thrown off guard by that onside kick being recovered and them having to go on the field. But that happens. I think you watch college football for as long as you and I have, and you watch other games, not just Florida State games. When a big momentum swing happens where someone gets an onside kick after half, which, is pretty rare. Mm-hmm. Generally that team does do pretty well in that possession scoring because it just flips all the emotion on their end. But then we come out and literally just act like nothing happened and score a touchdown right afterwards. So kudos to the staff. I thought the game after the first quarter was fine and they did fine. Could you have put up 50 points? Probably. But I mean, I'm not going to argue about looking on the stat sheet and seeing 650 yards of offense.
No, you're not going to argue with that. You're not going to argue with, covering the spread, and you're not going to argue with getting a bunch of young guys a lot of significant time. Fabian Lovett looked good, Jared Verse looked good, and they got enough snaps in to kind of shake the rust off, and then, you get young guys that, Rodney Hill looked good, CJ Campbell out of nowhere. Like, who knew? I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought he was out for the year. So yeah, man, did that defense, those third string, fourth string guys, did they give up some score? Yes. But you know what? It's teaching moments, and that game was well out of hand for them. So,
and getting the stage set for this week against Miami. Trayshawn Ward will be back. Mike Norvell even said as much that it would essentially take a setback for him not to play. So that's great news. I mean, you're talking about we're getting healthy. Everyone's back. I mean, everyone aside from Winston Wright is essentially that we had planned on using for the season is available, which is great news. And what a difference. And I want people to really step back and take a look at things. We weren't talking about potentially beginning bowl eligible until we were playing Florida last year and hoping that we could pull that game out. Guys, it's the beginning of November. We have 5 games left to play, and we have a chance to be bowl eligible this week and then go to Syracuse and Louisiana and then Florida. So it's a whole different feeling. It's nice to be able to be like, okay, we could win this week and we probably should. I think we're over 10 on the point spread as favorites. So Vegas likes us. I think we're getting healthy at the right time, and I think we're playing a Miami team that I can't imagine they have. I know it's a rivalry game. That's what everyone's going to say. It's a rivalry game. That's all good and fine, but I can't imagine their offense is playing with a ton of confidence in the Hurricane locker room right now.
No, I don't think so either. I think the spread I saw was 7.5, so I think it's fluctuated a little bit. But you give a rival any kind of momentum, then you may have a game on your hands. But if you're getting better at managing those situations that have been kind of a bugaboo for us, if you're getting better at that, then I don't think it's going to take too long for that team to quit.
You're picturing what I'm picturing, which is if you're headed, 8 minutes left in the second quarter and it's, 21-3 and we're looking at halftime and we have the ball and we score even a field goal. Let's say the halftime score is anything like 21-3, 24-3, even 28-10. I'm pretty sure we're going to be fine, and Miami will falter in the second half. What you can't have is 10-10 at halftime. That gives Miami very, very good feeling, because they want to compete with half those guys played together in high school. So if they're even close within a touchdown at halftime, then we'll probably if we're within a touchdown of them at halftime, I'm going to expect it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. Right. If we are up anything more than 10 at halftime, I'm going to think it's going to be a pretty easy day at the office. And we've seen it both ways. I mean, we've seen convincing wins against Miami and Florida. It's not often, but in the last 10 years, it's happened. I mean, we've definitely had those moments where you could tell that there was not always a talent difference. I think of Urban Meyer's last game. I would say definitely at that time, Urban Meyer probably had a more overall talented team, but a togetherness and a system in place and it's working, and confidence plays a lot into that. And right now I've watched a ton of Miami football this year. I mean, I've watched a fair number of their performances, and they're just not a confident offense. And I think the hope that if you're a Miami fan that you have is that your defense maybe gets a turnover, maybe a pick six off Jordan. Maybe you get Jordan hurt or out of the game. I mean, those are the kind of things. If I was a Miami fan, I'd be like, maybe we get Jordan out of the game or get him out of his rhythm and pick off a couple passes. But I don't have any faith that Miami will be able to keep up with us if we score even close to what we've been doing against everyone else.
Yeah, the defense is their really only way. I don't see the offense all of a sudden clicking next week. I mean, they don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. And the quarterback, if it is Van Spike, then it's he's coming off being hurt. So, and I'm not saying he's not a talented quarterback. I mean, he obviously is. But this is kind of like, I've been saying to some friends of mine that, are not necessarily Miami fans, but we talk about how, a team that has some history and they've been down for a little bit, then they get a new coaching staff and all of a sudden they think they just flip a switch. That's just not the way it works. It's just not the way it works. That team is, do they all get along together as players? Sure, I'm sure they do. Do they like the coaches? Sure, I'm sure they do. But it's fractured, right? They're still trying to build a confident foundation that they can fall back on when things don't go their way. They don't have that yet. So that's why I'm saying, like, this game starts, don't give them any reason to think that what they're going to be able to do is enough to keep up. And defense, I think, would be we have to help them win the game, basically.
Yeah.
If we help them win the game, they can absolutely win the game. They absolutely can. But if we play solid, minimize the mistakes, and do what we've been doing, and for a fact they're going to run Jordan Travis in this game. They pick and choose the right times to use Jordan's legs. I mean,
it's a luxury now.
And it's tough for me to go out on a limb and say this. Like, I don't see how Miami, if those things happen, I don't see how Miami can have enough to win the game. Now, I've seen games in the past where one team was, noticeably farther along than the other team, and they still lose. Don't get me wrong. I've seen those things happen. But, like I said, usually in those scenarios, those aren't first-year coaching staffs, right? And those aren't people playing their third-string quarterback or second-string quarterback. Those are teams that just, they know their system. They've been in the system for a while, and things just start to gel for them. So,
yeah, don't you think this will be similar, reverse to Mike Norvell's the COVID game when he was out sick and missed it, and like first year coach, we were discombobulated. James Blackman was the quarterback, and Jordan Travis even had to come in a little bit in that game. And Miami, we gave him like it was over pretty quick, and I think that game could be this game. It could also be that's the positive one. That's if we reverse the situations, that could be what this game is. It could also be Miami coming here last year where they were the better team. I mean, I honestly believe Miami was a better team than us last year, but they just didn't play like it, and we took advantage of mistakes that they were making, and then we 4th and 14 happens and we get a touchdown, and I believe that kind of game could happen to them. That's how they win, is with that kind of performance. Brian Burns, not Brian Burns, just the defense in general, getting a lot of pressure, a lot of sacks.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think we are past the I hope our offensive line holds up mindset. We've been through we're almost through a whole season now. I think the offensive line is fine.
No, they absolutely are fine. And keeping in mind that even when guys were out, even when some guys were hurt for some short stints of time, the coaching staff still had enough foundational stuff to be able to make some stuff work at least, right? Where in the past, that wasn't the case. Once somebody went out, it was like, oh, just, let everybody in the door. We're having a party.
Yeah.
So yeah, the O-line is going to be fine. Are they going to have a bad player or two? Sure. Are they going to get beat sometimes? Sure. But that's football. We go back to what you were saying at the beginning. I don't understand how people can expect perfection of the team or any team, but of our team, when they don't expect perfection of themselves. Or their kids or their job. I mean, it's so hyper focused that things are going to happen. The question is then, and Norvell talks about this, bad things may happen. It's what you do after that. How you handle that. How do you go on to the next play? That is what is going to cause your team to become a solid, foundational, successful group.
The last thing I'll say about the game itself before we get into like scores or even talk about the Chiefs thing, you mentioned it, like them running, Jordan Travis in this game. So last year and previous years, but last year definitely, it was a necessity that every game we had to have him run.
Right.
So a lot of people on the message boards and fans I've talked to have been like, I'm surprised that Jordan Travis hasn't been running a whole lot. Is he hurt or injured? No, I don't think he is. I think they say, oh, we're going to run him at Miami. We're going to run him at Florida. We're not going to waste running Jordan Travis around and potentially getting him hurt against Georgia Tech. So
Right.
it's become a gadget in the offense instead of the offense.
Right.
Jordan
We
was the
had
only hope last year.
right. We had to run him. We had to run him. We don't have to run him, and especially with Trayshawn coming back,
We got
right?
one of the best running back rooms I've ever seen Florida State have, like down the line. If you go, I'm not saying top line, I'm not saying we don't have a Dalvin Cook, but 4 deep, every single guy that comes in, we're like, look at that, another 8-yard run. Look, another 8-yard run. And it's just like, it doesn't even matter. All 4 can do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and John, you missed, this talk about Georgia Tech. That's pretty much what you missed. So, um, with the complement of running backs that we have, Trayshawn, super confident in him. Trey Benson, absolutely. Toa Philly, he's come on. Like, since Trayshawn has been out too, right? The fumble aside, again, that's, what are you going to do? But, he's come on. And now I don't know that they would put Rodney Hill in this game unless it's late in the game and we're blowing him out.
CJ
But
Campbell,
CJ, I mean, and then add to that Travis's legs. I
it's a
mean,
nightmare.
good luck. Good
I
luck.
would hate playing us. I tell people that all the time. If I was looking at Florida State as an opponent and I saw our running backs and I saw Jordan Travis can run and I see Johnny Wilson and Micah Pittman, I'd be like, man, like what do you take away? That's what I'd be asking.
Right. And again, Ryan and I aren't saying that we're like this elite team. It's not what we're saying. But there are weapons. And this offense is bordering on, something special. And really to the point where you have to hope as an opponent that we make a critical mistake sometimes.
Yeah, because when we're between the 20s, we're lights out. We're a top 10 offense between the 20s.
Even when a play breaks down because of what Jordan can do. So, we've got a great combination going on. We just have to put the game together, right? We put that game together, and it's it's a comfortable win.
Let's talk about scores.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into some side items on the game. But, my score, 55-14. I'm bullish on this game. I think Jake Garcia will start for Miami.
Yeah.
I think the whole is Van Dyke going to play? I think that's just the coach trying to be cute and see who's going to be the starter. But I don't think it really matters. I think Jake Garcia is going to play, and I think that we're completely healthy. And I really do. For the first time, when's the last time you heard me make a blowout prediction like this? I think
last week.
Miami is begging us to boat race them. Everything in their circumstances says we could kick their in this game, and we should.
We should. And you asked when was the last time you predicted a blowout? Was last week. But
no, I'm talking like against a rival.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one, man. Because we've not again still seen a complete game, I don't believe, out of the team.
My 55 points, by the way, includes Miami turning the ball over several times in the game.
Sure. Are we going to put together a complete game against a rival away? That would be amazing. Don't get me wrong. That'd be amazing. I'm thinking more like 48-21.
So you think our offense will score pretty close to what I think then?
Yeah. And I think there's some turnovers in there too. They're not opposed to turning the ball over.
And we got Fabian Fabian's ready to make some noise. He's healthier. Our defense is ready to get that pressure. Think of the pressure we got in the LSU game when everyone was there.
Number 10 LSU, by the way.
Right. And that only makes that win look better and better as the years gone on. I mean, really.
I think, and of course, Texas with 3 losses is ranked 2. It's kind of confusing to me. Philip, is the O-line the reason for not running up the gut inside the 20?
No.
No, I don't think the O-line is the reason. I think um, partially because I think the the more the more obvious uh, the down is to being a running down, the harder it is for us.
I think it really comes down to more of we are very between the 20s, we are very scheme it up offense, which means like
Wide
we
open
take
spaces.
advantage of matchups. And when you get inside those red zones, and we tend to we have a lot of, and you might have noticed this, Vince, we have a lot of deep passes that we get tackled like at the 7. And we're like, oh
Right.
no, we got to get 7 more yards to get a touchdown. But when it's that tight and you're in the red zone, there's not a whole lot of gimmicks or, you're not running plays to that that they're going to be in this position and you can catch them off guard. So you really have to go talent versus talent, lining up versus stars lining up against stars. And we're not to the point yet. Like, we're not that much more talented than pound for pound than Georgia Tech probably has on the roster right now. Maybe a little bit more, maybe at certain positions, but we are not 2013 right now. So Miami in the red zone, they actually match up probably pretty favorably with us on player for player. I just think our scheme gets our guys wide open and with some nice routes. I mean, look at the throws that you talked about, Vince. To you have that one that got called back because they said it was a pick route, which it wasn't at all. But it was a good route to get their players kind of mixed up in the coverage. And we love our wheel routes and getting our running backs the ball. And so when you do that between the 20s, that's great, but no one is biting on that stuff in the 20. You have to pretty much, when you're inside 10 yards or a touchdown, you're thinking post, slants, or runs. I mean, there's not a whole lot more you can do there.
Yeah, I think that, this kind of is what you're saying, but as the field compresses, that's less area for the defense to have to manage. And when we have wide open spaces, it's almost fun. It's almost fun to watch. How are they going to get so and so completely open? But when that field condenses, it's tougher. It's tougher for any team. But when you're not quite to the roster level you need to be, it makes it tougher for us.
This
41
could be
to
a
20.
Johnny Wilson game.
John Bellardino, 41-20. And the crap ref crew. And there's a good chance of that. There's actually a great chance that the ref crew is going to be terrible. That I would wager money on that for sure. And 35-20 if it is bad. So.
Yeah, but I think this game has red zone Johnny Wilson written all over it.
Yeah. And, tunnel screens, we'll see a number of those. We maybe ran one in this last game, but early in the season, if you remember, we were running like 3 or 4 a game. We'll see some of that too. This you did miss, John. We talked about it being pretty in the red zone. I don't necessarily agree with you that was getting pretty. Snapping a ball to a running back should be, a base play.
They practice it all week too. What's funny is the play that was cute was that end around to Micah Pittman, where he kind of came out front. That was a cute play, and that would have scored, and it probably did score. They just didn't review it, but no one complains about that call because it was positive.
Yeah. So, or there was no tragic ending to it. How about that? So
all trick plays are awesome until they don't work, right?
That's right. Philip, if you're still watching, do you have a score? You're going to throw a score down? I've got John down here for 41-20. You can't have 2 scores, John, so we'll go 41-20 for you. Philip, you can let us know if you got a score there. We can add that to the list.
Thank God that this game will be because it's in it broadcast. It's ABC, ESPN.
ABC
instead of ACC
7:30.
Network. So thank God for that. I can't wait to watch a non-ACC Network game. That's gonna be nice.
Oh man, it's brutal. Those camera angles. Obviously, Ryan and I were at the game, so the camera angles didn't affect us. But I've heard that the cameramen were just as bad as the ref crew.
We'll go back and watch the abbreviated highlights, and it's literally like they don't know where the ball is at all.
Yeah, the guy's just eating a sandwich, and the camera's drifted off. It makes me sad too, John, when the plays don't work. And again, teams aren't perfect. Not every play is going to work.
But Vince, something pretty personal to you, and I just my quick thing about the Chiefs not making the trip down to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you'll talk about the statement here in a bit, but I'm a little sad about it. I mean, it's just because I would like to hear the war chant in the background, but I totally get it. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to hear the war chant because there's going to be, probably at least at the very minimum, an even split of fans there. Because I think the game did list as a sellout yesterday or maybe early this morning. When I say no inside info, no context, no problem, it's true, right? But sometimes when it comes to other things, I do hear some things. And all I'll say about the Chiefs not going to Miami, just like anything else you read on the internet, do not take the things you're reading and seeing as being the gospel truth necessarily of why these things occur. And because it's easy to blame, Miami, and it's easy to blame FSU, and it's easy to blame the Chiefs. And all I'm saying is there is precedent for the Chiefs only going to, a minimal amount of away games over the years, but that is recent and possibly due to COVID. And so, and the other thing is, don't for 1 second think that the Chiefs do not want to go to that game. That is comical for people, to post online. It's usually people that don't know any Chiefs or, are not in Chiefs themselves or were never in Chiefs. There is not a person in that group that is happy that they're not going to that game. You can talk about, safety and everything like that. When I was in, Ryan, did I get stuff thrown at me? Sure. Did we have people spitting on us? Sure. But you still go. You go, and there is security, and we take care of our own, and it's a close order kind of thing, and I'll tell you that when we would march into hostile environments, we'd always put the tubas, the royal flush, on the outsides of the line, right? Those things are huge. So if people are trying to get through or break through or throw stuff, the chances are they're going to hit a tuba, right? So there are things that the Chiefs do to combat that and to be more safe. But I don't want anybody to think that was a conscious decision, that the Chiefs are not going to go because of a safety reason.
So Vince, tell me that was a smokescreen from FSU on official press release without telling me that was a smokescreen by FSU on an official press release.
From the dean of the College of Music. Yeah. So here's what I can say. And I'll go, when I was in Chiefs, get off my lawn kind of guy. There was no such thing as only one away game. It didn't exist. As a matter of fact, when I was in my last year in Chiefs, 93, the only game we didn't go to was Maryland, I believe, that year. So now this may be a new policy that I'm not aware of. Granted, right? I'm not in the group anymore. But I think, if you want to coin a term from one of our favorite broadcasters, Jeff Cameron, PR firm, right? There may be some PR going on there.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
all
know.
about safety and the Miami fans. That's what I kept hearing, and then I didn't feel like that I was getting the full story there.
Yeah. There
It sounds
is,
like it's budgetary to me.
it's, and if it is, okay, if it is budgetary, then, people start asking, like, well, how do we get the Chiefs to go to more games? Because it's almost like people don't think about that unless the Chiefs aren't going to a rival game, right? Hey, Georgia Tech came and got their butts whipped, and they sent at least 100-piece band to a non-rival, and they knew they were going to get hammered, and they
Yep.
did it anyway. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Florida State is a preeminent institution in Florida and in this conference. And, this is soapbox. I know we talk football, but I'm passionate about this. It has one of the greatest colleges of music in the United States, and if not the world. Okay. What are we doing that we cannot come up with the budget to send 100, 150? If Georgia Tech can do it, these other bands are
Well,
doing it.
Vince, to me, and then I have no, skin in this game as far as like I've never been in Chiefs or anything, but it seems to me that you should probably go to every away game that's hosted in your own state. That's not going to require, I mean, it's pretty cheap to come to Miami. It's not like you're not flying to New York or like California for the night. There's none of that. Like it's a day trip.
Absolutely. You're not going to send your band to a rival. I don't care what the reason is. If it's Miami, and again, I don't know all the details. If Miami's saying, we're not going to give you seats for it, well, you know what? You bring that up with the conference and you get that straightened out. If it's, that you don't want to sit in the nosebleed seats, then, the next time, hey, Florida State has always welcomed every band in, and they put them in some really great seats, right? There are ways to get rid of the excuses. If one of the excuses is budgetary, and for the people that are watching this live, or you're going to listen to it later, the Chiefs have a travel endowment that you can contribute to. Because hey, don't get me wrong, it's expensive to send 400 plus people somewhere. It's expensive, man. It really is. But don't cry about them not going if you're not helping it happen. At some point, we can't look at other people to say, why aren't you donating? It's the same as the football team. Why aren't you donating? Well, what have you donated? I haven't donated anything. Well, then why are we having this conversation? But there's actually, you can earmark it specifically for travel if that's what you care about. If you care about the Chiefs going and representing our school, so you can hear the war chant and at the very least, keep up with the rest of the conference that's sending their bands. The other teams are sending their bands on away trips. What are we doing?
I think Florida State should ask the conference to revoke all Miami's ACC championships.
That'll be a short conversation, right?
Yeah.
But again, Ryan, like I said, sometimes I hear some things and I don't necessarily always know that they're accurate, but the people I talk to tend to have some information. Just don't believe everything you're reading. I think there is some there's some want to kind of quell the fervor,
Well, they could
without
easily
pointing
change
fingers.
their mind. If they really wanted to, they could say, yeah, we made a mistake, but we're going down there and we're going to play, we're going to play this weekend. They could make that decision tomorrow if they wanted to. So
If they had tickets.
Yeah.
If the game's sold out, what are they going to do now? It's too late now, unfortunately. It's too late. Had we known, I'll just say, had I known as an alumni in August that the Chiefs were only going to go to one away game, and it was going to be LSU, unless this travel endowment started, pouring in money. You know what I would have done? I would have sent more money in, and I do contribute, but I would have sent more money in because it's important. It's important. That's
All
my
right, Vince.
soapbox.
Anything else?
That's my soapbox, brother. Let's talk about Halloween real quick. Tell me about your Halloween, Ryan, at your house.
Not too much going on, honestly. A few kids
No?
came by and trick or treating, and had some wine, watched some scary movies. Everything you would want a Halloween night to be.
So you didn't get a lot of kids, huh? We had a
10
ton.
kids.
Were you prepared for more?
Yeah, we had plenty of candy. We still do.
Excellent. We had hundreds, and it was awesome. Love Halloween. What about Thanksgiving? What are you doing, Ryan?
Family coming to town. Still trying to figure out the Florida game. The logistics are tough. I hate that it's on Friday because family will still be here. And it's a night game, and so people are going to be staying at our house, and we're still not sure what we're doing about that. But I will say that it's 100% I'll be at the Louisiana game, and we're going to do it big for that game. So I'm excited. I think we will be bowl eligible after this week.
God bless
and
you,
I
John.
think,
Halloween,
if
he spent climbing in a fuel tank of a C5. My goodness, it's
one way
fun.
to spend a night.
Yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
No, but I mean, I think we'll be honestly probably an 8-win team headed in to play Florida. Won't that be? That'll be exciting.
It would be exciting. We got to get this one first. We're still planning on going to Florida game as well, and Louisiana game. So we'll have much more to talk about after this game, Ryan. And hopefully, we're going to be talking about a significant, notable victory over DU.
Yeah, the All Canes Conference, right? Let's go get it.
The All Canes Conference, 5 rangs. 5 rangs, brother.
Coastal. They're just trying to get the Coastal one more time.
Yeah.
That Coastal's hard, man. You got to go through Duke.
You do. And Middle Tennessee State's not in the conference. Sorry. I almost, yeah. I may have said that on purpose. Let's wrap it.
I mean,
Ryan.
imagine if our path to the conference championship, if we had to play Duke and Virginia, that's a toughie.
We didn't really mention that. Miami's schedule has not been notable.
It sure hasn't.
Has not been notable.
Take a mental note of that and why I predict such a blowout this week.
Yeah. Given all that, rivalry games, sometimes you never know. So it's been a good show, Ryan. I appreciate you making it happen tonight. And we will be back, hopefully with a win next week.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Garnet Old
Tell all your
podcast,
friends.
guys. I really appreciate everyone watching tonight. So no inside info.
No contacts.
No problem.
No problem.
Go Noles.
Go Noles.